The college football experience, Minnesota Golden Gophers 2024 season preview episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8 sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
Hey, what's up, you degenerate gamblers? This is Bill Burr, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, baby.
Yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience, Minnesota Golden Gophers 2024 season preview episode. It is Gopher. And hopefully you're subscribed, youtube.com/the college experience. Hit that like and subscribe button. We are in the middle of 134 team previews, an hour dedicated to every single team in the land. We've already dropped the entire SEC, the entire Mountain West, and most of the Big Ten. So check those out. Look, if you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, that is fair. My name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
Go for football. Row that boat. Row. Let's go. Exciting times, I feel like. Well, I mean, look, last season, losing season, but you still made a bowl, won a bowl game. All right. Sometimes that stuff matters. I am joined by my co-host. Give it up for former JMU Duke defensive back, the burrito eating, sideline kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, Patty C, the place to be.
Hi-oh. Well.
Oh yeah, but they win. The last team to win 3 straight national championships. All right, put that in your pipe and smoke at SEC. All right.
Boom. Although I just did a little research. The story is they're the last team to do it during, or the only team to do it during the AP wire service era, whatever you call it. What I noticed is the AP started in 1936 and they got it in 34, 35, and 36. So they only got one of those years as an AP national champion. So I don't know that we've ever had 3 straight AP national champions. I think that is a distinction that Minnesota's been giving credit for, but they don't actually deserve. However, 3 straight national championships on any level is probably pretty rare, if anyone else can even claim that at all. So Minnesota definitely has that feather in their cap. They also got one in 40 and 41, was it?
Yeah, they needed a world war to break out. No, I'm joking. But no, they look, and I think now you got this 12-team playoff. And I know I say this for every team, but that's because I think you should be excited if you're a Minnesota fan. You don't have to go that far back to see a double-digit win season. Just a couple years ago, they've had 2 9-win seasons and was it 11 win season, I believe.
Back in 2019.
Yeah, that would have gotten them into the playoff, dude.
Yeah, college football playoff I guess, final 18 seed, but somehow the AP postseason top 10. So if you went by the AP postseason, they would have gotten in.
I'm just going to say, if you have 2 losses and you're in the Big Ten, you're fucking in. All right.
Yeah. Moving forward, that pretty much seems to be a guarantee.
Yeah. We're going to break down the offense, defense, special teams, the coach, all that good stuff, game by game on the schedule. But before we do that, I want to tell you, you're listening to the College Football Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Go check out our latest episode of SGP Stories. It's out on our Patreon, and the guys, myself, Stacking the Money Green, and Real Money Kramer, do a forensic files style deep dive on the Bobby Petrino motorcycle accident that cost him his job at Arkansas, say over just about 11 years ago. He's back at Arkansas, but I may or may not be wearing a neck brace with an Arkansas jacket and a Sugar Bowl hat on. So go check that out. Also, make sure to check out the WNBA Gambling Podcast, as Terrell and Scott are giving you red hot locks. Check it out. Get on over there. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. All right. We are back. YouTube.com/The College Experience. Hit that like and subscribe button. Shout out to Chad G. He says, I'm looking tired. Why? You got a newborn. Never sleep. I slept like 2 hours last night. It's okay. It's okay.
He's doing it for the kids. Quite literally.
That's what I'm saying. My son, White Tiger might want to listen. My son, his name is White Tiger, and he might want to listen to the Minnesota preview at some point. That's why I'm here. He might want to make a little extra cash. But the Gopher football is exciting. And Patty C, where are you at with PJ Fleck? Where what do you think about PJ Fleck?
I think PJ Fleck is still pretty high on my list of coaches in terms of overall ability and his ceiling. His production obviously took a dip last year, but prior to that, 2 straight 9-4 seasons. It's not like the guy's been like terrible for years here. He just lost momentum 1 year. I think he's still, I don't know. I think the Minnesota program has a bit of a ceiling at this point. He could continue to grow it, but now that the Big Ten has gotten like that much harder, I see it as like he probably needs to move if he's going to get to the next level as a coach.
I would disagree saying that the 12-team playoff, like I said, even if the 2 years with 9 wins, you're right there.
Yeah, okay, that's true to make the playoff, but in order to win in the playoff, to go deep, to get to the semifinals or national champion, things can break, but I'm just saying, to be a consistent player, which I think he has the coaching chops to be, I think
I'm just going to go ahead and say, though, that if they made the playoffs, like we said, there's 1 11 win season, 2 9s. If they had made the playoffs those years, the whole trajectory of this program, the amount of money coming in through the state,
that's true,
would change. It would change, man. We've seen this before. Like, I think I think it would change everything. Their NIL, everything. It would have a direct result, even if they lost in the first round on all of them, because I think the level of excitement would be just through the roof.
It's true. I don't know that there is a comparable program from a talent base standpoint, and maybe even a financial standpoint. But when you think of like Wisconsin, I don't know that either Milwaukee or Green Bay can produce the amount of talent or the money that so Wisconsin, I don't think Iowa can. Illinois should be able to, but they can't. Chicago, for whatever reason, they can't seem to tap into it. The closest thing that comes to mind is Michigan with Detroit. I mean, Minneapolis and Detroit, and then the rest of the talent. I know what they said, that Crittenden Durham, they had that number 1 offensive lineman that went down to Miami, number 1 player in that entire recruiting class. So I think they have high schools that produce talent. So maybe you're right. Maybe if they got some serious momentum, won some playoff games, the money could start coming in. They could start holding on to their own high-end talent. And lo and behold, Minnesota's a national player.
A plus B equals C, buddy. A plus B equals C. Let's jump on over. Look, I drew up these slides. Get on over youtube.com/The College Experience. Okay, if you listen to this on the audio side, that's okay too. But I have these fire slides. All right, and we're PJ Fleck as a head coach. He's 80-56 in 11 years as a head coach. He's got 3 9+ winning seasons at Minnesota, which I think is remarkable. He has a 13-1 season at Western Michigan in 2016, which they would have made the playoffs had there been a 12-team playoff. His offense coordinator is Greg Harbaugh Jr. His defense coordinator is Corey Heatherman, who's coming over, former JMU Duke defensive coordinator. They did lose Joe Rossi to Michigan State on the DC, but I feel like they'll still be okay. But let's go deeper into Fleck, because this is what he's done in Minnesota against the Big Ten. He is 5-1 against Nebraska. 5-1, Patty C.
That's nice.
He's 2-0 against, what's that?
I don't know, what the expectation for Golden Gophers fans was for Nebraska, or what really that rivalry had been prior to his arrival, but you got to be pleased with that.
Yeah, he's 2-0 against Indiana, 2-0 against Rutgers, 4-3 against Purdue, 2-1 against Michigan State, 1-1 against Penn State, 3-3 against Northwestern, 3-4 against Wisconsin, 2-3 against Maryland, 3-4 against the Illini, 1-6 against Iowa, and even that one should have an asterisk because of a questionable refereeing decision there, as Cooper DeJean took a punt back for a touchdown. He's 0-6 against Ohio State and Michigan. What stands out to you most here, Patty C?
I mean, Maryland seems a little odd to be struggling with them, but that's whatever. I think 3-4 against Illinois is a bit of a black
concern.
Wisconsin at 3-4 is actually I think a feather in his cap based on what that series had been. Wisconsin was dominating for a long time. But the rest of it, it's about what I would expect. I mean,
what about
you'd
Iowa
like to see
one? The Iowa one's got to be a red flag, though, right?
Yeah.
You're 1-6 against the Hawkeyes, and even that one makes me feel like, very fortunate to get out of there. He is on a 1-game winning streak though against the Hawkeyes. Yeah, I mean, so do you think, hypothetically here, if he had a 6-6, 5-7 season, do you think he would be on the hot seat the next year?
Maybe the following year. Yeah, if he has another 6-7 output here, I think he got the expectation of the program up to be a 8-9 win team most years, and if they've regressed on a consistent basis, like 3 straight years of 6-6, yeah, he's probably out the door. Because that means he's lost all momentum.
2 straight years, right?
Well, yeah. I don't think he gets fired on another 6-7, but I think he goes into the following year on the hot seat, and then maybe 6-6 that third year in a row would be enough to can him.
Why would Minnesota vote yes on adding USC, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA?
Again, money.
You're gonna make more money if you're in the playoff every year.
Yeah, but
long term,
let's be realistic about what their actual playoff, potential is. They have one AP postseason top 25 finish, or top 10 or top 12 finish, I should say, since 1963. That was in 2019. So it has been.
Whoa! But I'm saying under PJ Fleck, he's done it once and he's knocked on the door 2 other times.
Yeah, well, knocking on the door, isn't
9 wins is right fucking there, dude.
They are not going to be a regular playoff team with their current makeup. They would need to take a big step forward to be that team. So I think financially, no, they're not ready to just dominate and make money based on being in the playoff. So there is a lot of money to be gained by adding those other teams. Plus, again, like we've said, it is survival mode out there for these conferences. You want to add as many talented teams as you can.
I disagree on
dog.
I think short term they're thinking too short term. I think long term, all those schools that voted yes, with the exception of your Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, I think it's a mistake by them. I truly think it's a mistake. Yeah, maybe
with it expanding to 16, most likely in a few years, then that becomes even more of a, hey, we're a fringe playoff team most years, and now we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Still,
and
it's a lot of money.
Can you imagine their home field advantage in December?
Come on. That outdoor stadium was a great move. And now I don't even know. I have to take a peek here, but do we have any California or West Coast schools in general coming out this way? late in the season.
We will get to it. We got
it.
I don't know about late in the year, but we got one coming
Mid-season. I see it now.
Folks, I want to tell you the Minnesota Golden Gophers season previews brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8's now live. Create entries up to 8 picks, and the Underdog will automatically double flex entries so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement is higher than ever. The best part, you can win up to 325 times your original amount. And you can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries. Don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. So sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Yes, they do have college football and college basketball. Shit, I'm doing it summertime. I'm all over these the MLB and CFL plays there. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Circus Survivor and Circa Million. Circus Sports is back with Circus Survivor and Circa Million. It's giving away $16 million in prizes. Of course, circus contests have no rake. Circa Millions pick 5 NFL teams ATS each week and compete for $6 million or survive the NFL gauntlet to claim the $10 million prize. Sign up in person at Circus Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We actually, right now, we have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. So check that out. And if you don't have a trip booked yet for Las Vegas before football season, may I suggest Ultimate Contest Weekend? It is a great time to go out. You can hang with Sports Gambling Podcast guys, Stacking the Money Green, Ryan, Real Money Kramer, and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd to August 24th. All right, we are back talking Gopher football, and they do have some blemishes in the past. And I'm doing this for all the power programs here. They've got some bad ones. The MAC has gotten in there, scored a couple wins. Bowling Green's beaten the Gophers twice in Minneapolis. The Ohio Bobcats caught them. Minnesota was smart, wild enough to play a game at Toledo. They got bit. They got bit at Florida Atlantic. North Dakota State, Patty C, coming into Minneapolis twice makes me question how North Dakota State would do if they joined the Big Ten, because I do believe they are. I do believe they're 2-0 against Minnesota and 1-0 against Iowa. So
I mean, the proof is right there. You don't need to, peer too much further into it.
What are we doing, Big Ten? You're adding the wrong fucking teams. Look, also they lost to the Coyotes of South Dakota, caught them once. Northern Illinois, which seems to be on this list every team we do, and New Mexico State. Woo! Come on, Gophers, let's get it going. But Fleck has only been a part. He did lose the Bowling Green. Fleck did, but anyway, the offense a year ago, Patty C. 108th in scoring offense, 11. That was good for 11th in the Big Ten, just 20.9 points per game. 122nd in yards per game, 300.9 yards per game. 123rd in passing offense. They had the Greek rifle. He now, he came in with a lot of hype, dude. That's why you can never trust spring ball. You can never trust, because they came in thinking like this is going to be their difference maker. And he's now starting at Rutgers. They were 65th in rushing attack, which is 7th best in the Big Ten, 157.5 yards per game. This is off the season of losing Muhammad Ibrahim. So they're still able to run the ball. But what stands out to you
nationally isn't exactly like running it down everyone's throat, but it's
compared
a lot
to their
better.
Other numbers.
Yeah, that's true. No, you were asking what my impression of this offense is?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just terrible at passing, and it hasn't been good at passing for a long time. Tanner Morgan back in 2019 had a phenomenal passing season. I want to say 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. But since then, they've been mediocre, even with Tanner Morgan at the helm. And then, the more recent guys, obviously the Greek rifle last year, pretty darn bad.
He was horrible.
I mean, I think that's in Fleck's DNA to be a run-first team. It helps to have a guy like Ibrahim toting the rock. They haven't had that in a couple of years. I think they have a good backfield, but it needs to get better, and you need to get some help from your passing attack. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, it's interesting. They can retain the OC. They do have 8 starters back on offense, Patty C. 4 out of 5 on the offensive line is back. Huge. Both receivers, Elijah Spencer and Daniel Jackson, and they were kind of dinged up a year ago. Darius Taylor's back at the running back spot, and they really loaded up on good running backs, in my opinion. We'll talk about that in a minute. Kicker Dragon Kashish is back. I could be fucking that name up, but yeah, I like Kashish. It sounds like a fucking drug. Anyway, it's a lot of returning production. You got to be a little bit excited about that. Look, I know the Greek Rifle's gone, but I feel like that's a positive,
right?
and they go out in the portal.
Addition by substitution, you might say.
Look, I host the FCS College Football Experience. Subscribe to that. Max Brosmer's been one of the best players in the FCS for like the past 3 seasons. Like, he's a really good quarterback in the FCS.
Yeah.
And recently, we've seen some of these FCS quarterbacks come up and be fantastic, Patty C. He was at New Hampshire too, so he's used to playing in cold weather. You look at what this guy has done. He threw 29 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in the CAA last year. I believe he might even have 2 years of eligibility left. I'm not sure on that because of the COVID thing.
Yeah,
but
that's probably true. I don't even know how many games. Yeah, in 2020, I guess it wouldn't have mattered either way. He had played 3 years aside from that, but 2021 he took off a year. So I think he's probably only got this 1 year. But like you said, 2 consecutive 3,000-yard passing seasons, and then over the last 2 seasons, 56 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. I think that's a ratio Minnesota will take.
Yeah, and we've seen FCS quarterbacks step up. Like Cam Ward was one who's like highly, the highest priced quarterback this offseason. Miami lands him. There was another FCS quarterback recently that jumped. I'm drawing a blank on, but because I was making my notes before this episode and I definitely thought I had it. But anyway, my point is that when you get an experienced quarterback like that's that experience. I know it's a big step up from the CAA, the Colonial Athletic, to the Big Ten, but
yeah,
I tend to think I tend to trust after watching the Greek Rifle. I can guarantee you Max Brosmer is better than the Greek Rifle.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is when you're playing at that level of competition in the FCS, you're likely playing against comparably talented teams, and when you go to a place like when you go to the Big Ten and Minnesota, you're still going to be for the most part being playing against comparably talented teams as your own. And so unless the game is just wildly faster than you're ready to handle, then no, you're basically facing the same kind of situation. I think quarterbacks tend to translate well from the FCS to the FBS. Yeah,
and they also get drafted. If you look at, a good slew of them are in the NFL. You know what I mean? Whether it's, Trey Lance and Carson Wentz or Jimmy Garoppolo or
Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I mean they tend to be ready somewhat for the NFL too. So I think this is a huge get. They also brought in Dylan. How do I pronounce his name? Whitkey from Virginia Tech.
Looks about right.
The running back room. Let's talk about that because they returned Darius Taylor. They add Marcus Major from Oklahoma just a couple of years ago. I was really impressed with this guy. I know he had been injured. They brought in Jaren Mangham, who's a guy that's been at a bunch of different schools. He was at Colorado, he was at South Florida, he was at Michigan State. And then Sieh Bangora, who was a stud with the Ohio Bobcats when they won 10 games. They loaded up on good running backs. They also added a couple of receivers from some respectable schools. Cristian Driver from Penn State and Tyler Williams from the Georgia Bulldogs. Also brought in offensive tackle Aluma Nkele from the UTEP Miners. I kind of love what they did, right?
Darius Taylor's game log. I mean, the guy had 800 yards in 6 games. And one of those games, he had 1 attempt, right, for 3 yards. Aside from that, the next 5 games he played, 193 rushing yards, 138 rushing yards, 198 rushing yards, 59 rushing yards against Iowa, which is understandable, and then 208 rushing yards. That guy, maybe Darius Taylor, if he plays a full season, that's on pace for I don't know,
and
close to 2,000.
And you're returning 4 or 5 on the O line.
Yeah, maybe we got a surprise stud rusher here, a Doak Walker candidate by the end of the year potentially.
And you add Brosmer, the passing attack should be better. I'm excited for this, man. Now they did lose, like I said, the Greek Rifle went to Rutgers and Drew Viato went to Eastern Michigan. They also lost a running back named Max Grand, great name, But they didn't really lose. They lost the Greek
Max,
Rifles brother.
man. That's amazing.
They lost the Greek Rifles brother to Rutgers as well, to wide receiver spot, Dino. They also, but they really didn't get hit that much, right? They really didn't when you think about it.
I mean, they'd have to take a quicker peek at production, but again, losing the Greek Rifle, not a huge L. I feel like you could. That's like losing Spencer Petras or who's the guy that started at Iowa last year. I'm blank.
Deacon Hill.
I don't get
Deacon Hill.
I
don't know who is better, Greek Rifle or Deacon Hill. I'm gonna give the Greek Rifle by a hair there.
I'll give him a little bit there too, but he's gone. And look, I think they definitely won the portal, at least from the offensive side of the ball. They did lose kicker Jacob Lewis to the Ohio Bobcats. But let's talk about the defensive side of the ball, because I really believe the offense will be better this year than a year ago. You agree, Patty C?
The offense, yeah. It can't get much worse.
Yeah. Even though there is no Big Ten West, that's one thing that
well, actually, that probably
up.
favors Minnesota's offense, because the Big Ten West is not sexy because they play amazing defense over there. So maybe when you're playing UCLA and USC, you start to look like a pretty sweet offense.
That's true. The defense, I know it says offense there. I fucked this up, but 67th in scoring per game, 26.7 points per game, 10th best in the Big Ten, 54th in yards, 10th best, pretty much 10th best across the board and everything. Rush defense was 12th best. Patty C, is that surprising for you that the Gophers were that bad in the back half of the Big Ten last year? Does that surprise you?
A little bit. I feel like Fleck generally fields a pretty good team. When you talk about the coaching, though, Heatherman came when
this year, right?
Okay, let me double check that. Yeah, no, you're right. He was at Rutgers.
Joe Rossi took the Michigan State job. Yeah.
Okay.
And he was previously at JMU before that. Yeah,
well, that makes me confident there, because I'm not just trying to toot my own horn or JMU's horn here. I think JMU has had great production. He was the defensive ends and defensive line coach. JMU has had one of the premier rushing defenses, which obviously has to do with the defensive line for years now. That bodes well. I know offensively, Kirk Shiraka has come and was there for a while, left for a couple years, came back. So I think that may have contributed to the regression offensively. So I think from a coaching standpoint, I have a little more confidence on the defensive side of the ball than the offensive side of the ball.
Sure. We're going to dive in because they got a lot returning, but I want to tell you that the Minnesota Golden Gopher previews brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on player props, you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm is the go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data into actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter, data-driven decisions there. Unlike other platforms, Rhythm combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. Rhythm's predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data that help drive you to better AI-backed betting decisions. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. All right, we are back talking Gopher football. 8 starters return on the defense. Patty C, what am I missing here? The and punter Mark Crawford's back, but you gotta love the D line. Jalen Logan Redding back, Devin Eastern back, Danny Strigo back, linebackers, Devin Williams, Jack Henderson, Cody Lindenberg, all back. Secondary brings just 2 back. Justin Wiley at the corner spot, Darius Green at the strong safety spot. I kind of like the fact they're returning all this production though. You?
You have to like that. And what's weird when looking at this team is how balanced the defense is in terms of tackles being distributed. The number 1 tackler on the team had 59 tackles total. The number 7 had 51 total tackles. So somehow they have, that stands out to me, because most teams have 1 or 2 guys that's grabbing up 100 some odd tackles. They must have a system that really distributes the pressure in a lot of different ways and creates tackles that way. I'd have to look at it a little more closely. But overall, bringing back that many guys that are pretty much major contributors, of course you have to like that.
Yeah, and one thing we should talk about is, you bring back all that, but last year they had Michigan and Ohio State on their schedule, even though they were in the Big Ten West. That's what they drew. They drew home to Michigan, at Ohio State, and they still had to go to Kinnick and everything. So it was a challenging schedule.
Yeah.
So bringing back those guys, I think the numbers could go up, and I do believe the schedule. We'll get to it. It still has some challenges, but there is some good news there. They did go out in the portal and get some guys. Once again, I think this team is a perfect example of winning the portal. They bring in Jackson Howard, a defensive end from LSU, also Adam Kasahi from Clemson, both on the D line. Clemson known to have great defensive linemen, but I feel like always. Cornerback Ethan Robinson from Bucknell, and then Jayonte McMillan from TCU. Patty C. It's not a lot, but got some key guys there, and then they didn't lose anybody. They didn't lose much, man. Tyler Bride to Jacksonville State and Tariq Watson to UAB, but I kind of love what they did in the portal. Am I crazy?
Well, I mean, they lost. They brought in 4. They lost 4. So, you might not be like infusing yourselves with a ton of new talent, but you're not losing a ton either. So, continuity, generally speaking, I think is a good thing. I think that's a good sign.
And you look at the win total, Patty C. And so here's what I love. I haven't done a deep dive on the schedule yet. But when I see the win total set at 5, I love when flex teams come in with shitty expectations, because I feel like he always kills it those years. When they have expectations, it's almost like Mike Gundy, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's when it's a little tricky. They're plus 1,800 or 18,000 to win the Big Ten championship. There's no odds for the 12-team playoff yet. There will be
what's funny there?
What's that?
Gundy. I mean, maybe I'm just correlating these two, and it's not a great comparison, but I feel like both of those guys have a little bit of a raw personality, and I think that probably really works well when you have bulletin board material. If you're being disrespected, if you're being hyped, maybe you don't need the raw. Maybe the raw stuff doesn't get you to another level. Maybe you just need a guy like Saban who keeps you focused and disciplined. But certainly, I don't know. That might be a stretch, but it's funny that you pointed that out, because I do see the correlation between those two coaches.
Yeah, and what else helped Saban was bags full of cash being thrown in cars.
Yes, that did help.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure bringing players in. Look, plus 90,000 to win the national championship. I'm curious about those 12-team playoff odds once they come out. I was told that we'll have those in the next month for every single team. But Patty C, when I look at 5 wins, I find this ridiculous, and I want to lock up the over without even looking at the schedule, because I don't believe that Fleck, especially with what they've done in the portal and bringing back 18 starters, was it, or 16 starters, and then you got that much better at the quarterback spot. I don't understand how it can be 5 wins.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that just based on Fleck's history, he hasn't regressed to that extent ever. I mean, he only has 2 coaching stops, Western Michigan and Minnesota, but and both at Western Michigan, it was a complete skyrocketing upward trajectory. Minnesota, it's been, it started out that way and then it leveled off, and there's been a slight regression lately, but that's a 1-year deal. I think that, people may be overreacting to last year.
I think 100%. And even last year, with that being the case, they had an overtime loss to Northwestern, a 1-point loss to Illinois. They really only got their ass whooped by Michigan and Ohio State. Sure, that the Wisconsin game got away. They won by 14, but that was a closer game than the score indicates.
Purdue put it on them.
Yeah, that was a strange one. That's a strange one, but still, my point is I feel like this team's closer than what the 5 wins makes me giggle. But
we'd have to peer closely at this schedule to see, because I do think there are some tough games on this schedule.
Well, let's look at it. It's right here. YouTube.com/The College Experience. Week 1, the North Carolina Tar Heels come to town. Thursday night, Huntington Bank Stadium's got to be rocking. I think Minnesota's better than North Carolina right now, so I will take Minnesota to win this game.
On what basis do you think Minnesota is better than North Carolina? I mean, I know Drake May's not there.
Not only Drake May, I feel like they lost a lot from a year ago, and to replace that, but also on the road. I mean, Minnesota went and got their ass whooped by them last year, right? Yeah. I feel like it's just, I don't think
payback is waiting to happen here.
Yeah, I just feel like Minnesota is North Carolina of last year, returning a bunch of production. Minnesota was the team not returning much last year, so I do think they'll get North Carolina. Now, I don't think it's like 100%. North Carolina always, Mac Brown has guys, but I do think right now, when I look at 2024, I think Minnesota's in a better spot right now than North Carolina is coming into the year. If it was in November, maybe I would say, you got something going, but I think it's gonna be a body blow game for North Carolina if they don't have that run defense fixed.
It could. I mean, yeah, I do think Minnesota is probably a little more physical than North Carolina. I mean, that's not saying that much, but 2 first-time starters in their first game at the helm, on the road for North Carolina. I think that favors Minnesota to have a home start here. Definitely,
I agree. Then you got the Rhode Island Rams and the CAA. Max Brosmer, familiar with them. He's gonna be able to break them down. Solid team though in the FCS. If you pay attention to the Rhode Island Rams. Hey, but
Austin Liebro makes a very astute comment in the chat. PJ Fleck sweater vest is so we'll say sus that it's hard to bet with the Gophers. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of got a little bit of a annoying thing going on, to put it.
I said this before. He's Danny Hurley of college football.
Hey, I mean, I think Minnesota would take that if the results were similar.
Well, I mean, just from a personality standpoint, like in the middle of the game, he's just sitting there clapping. You know what I mean? The whole time,
rubbing everyone the wrong way.
Yeah. But dude, I got him 2-0. You got him 2-0.
I mean, it's really not that far from Dabo, though. Dabo runs down the hill, and gets out all the attention, while everyone else is getting ready to run down the hill.
That's a good point.
PJ Fleck sprinting up and down the sidelines during the third and fourth quarter, or the period between. All right, Rhode Island. That's interesting because they're going to be starting was it Brosmer? Like, did you mention that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think if that actually creates a little bit of an interesting situation there, because I think he probably is in a better situation to take advantage of Rhode Island than Rhode Island is to take advantage of him. But maybe not. Maybe they are really dialed into what he is capable of and what he's not, and they put a great game plan around that to kind of shut Minnesota's offense down. But still, I think he's probably in a position to dice up Rhode Island, and they're just a much better team. So 2-0 here, right?
2-0, and look, if you're wondering what that number is on the right, I had Rhode Island as from 1 to 12. 12 is the easiest, 1 is the hardest. I got them. They got their easiest games right here in a way. Nevada week 3. Jeff Choate coming into Nevada. I do like the hire, but I think it's going to take some time. I think Minnesota's going to be 3-0, man.
Yeah, I think that's a shoo-in victory right here. Here we get to an interesting game, though.
I'll tell you this, man. They don't normally get Iowa this early. I think that's a benefit to Minnesota.
I would say so, but I don't think there's necessarily the cold that's an advantage for Iowa this at any point in the season over Minnesota. I think maybe the crowds get a little more lit later in the season for Iowa. I don't know that that's true.
I just feel like throwing the downfield pass becomes harder as the Big Ten season goes along.
Yeah, I would say, for whatever reason, I would say it's a little harder to win later in the season at Iowa than earlier in the season. I think this is a tough game. This is a great Floyd of Rosedale. Iowa got it last year by 2. What was it?
No, Minnesota got it.
Or Minnesota, rather.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this: a lot of these games have been very close.
Well, every game Iowa's played under Kirk Ferentz has been close.
True. Hold on, let me see here. 6 out of the last so they had won 8 games in a row prior to this.
I mentioned. Remember, Fleck 1-6 against Iowa.
Yeah, but each of those, the largest margin of victory in those 6 wins out of those 8 games for Iowa was 7 points. So they are always playing 1 possession games against Minnesota. And the fact this game's at home, if Minnesota's a little better, then, well, you know what I expect? Another 1 possession loss here.
I do too. I got Iowa 21, Minnesota 20. That puts it at 3-1, and then they head to the big house. You're going up against 2 of the top 10 defenses back-to-back weeks. Have fun, Max Brosmer. Iowa and Michigan. I got them losing in the big house. I got them. I got it 3-2 now. How about you?
Yeah, that's almost certainly a loss. However, a nice break from tough defenses presents itself the following week with USC coming to town.
And this is what I think they can get. I like USC's win total is right there at 7 or 7. Yeah,
they could get 7. This one. They could get this one. This is a very winnable game.
Well, I could just see them on the line of scrimmage. Like I could see their running backs, whether it's Taylor or Bangora or whoever, having a field day against a USC rush defense.
Well, you and I have talked about this. You know damn well PJ Fleck could possibly be interviewing for this USC job next year too if he puts on a nice show. Do I think they're going to beat USC? No. I think USC's got too many athletes, but it could be a closer game. I would have loved to have seen this game played in November instead of early October. But
the Big Ten did USC and UCLA a favor. Look, they'll be dogs. So I'll play devil's advocate and say they lose, but I kind of like their chances to beat them. I think they're the more physical team. You saw like Utah doesn't have the athletes USC does, but they beat them down almost every year.
Would that be the premier win of PJ Fleck's tenure? I guess Penn State back in 2019 has to qualify as that. Penn State team won the Cotton Bowl that year. Hey, by the way, how bad does that suck for Minnesota that they beat Penn State straight up and Penn State still got the New Year's 6th berth despite them both having the same record?
Well, that's the bullshit politics of college football.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this happens all the time.
Minnesota, you keep building it though. You get that name brand back. Maybe you start getting that edge.
Minnesota fans are still sitting there like,
well I don't get a damn brain, man.
So yeah, let's put them at 3-3 then. Even though I think they really could be 4-2 at that point. They're winning. I'll tell you this. If we got them losing to those 3, they're definitely beating UCLA then.
I disagree. I think they lose to UCLA as well.
I think UCLA is going to be horrible this year.
I think Fleck is a far more proven coach. I mean, we don't know anything about Deshaun Foster, but if I had to bet right now who's a far better coach and who could do more with the same amount of talent at their disposal, I'm betting the house on Fleck, and I think UCLA is a little more talented than Minnesota, but not by a mile.
I think UCLA is a dumpster fire this year. I think it's we haven't previewed them yet, but I'm really a skeptic of the Bruins in 2024.
They could get this one. They could.
So I got them at 4-3. You got them at 3-4.
Yep.
They get a bye week. They're home to the Maryland Terrapins. I love this bye week right there because I think they're going to fuck up Maryland and Minneapolis. They are 1-2 against Maryland, but I believe those both came in College Park. Their one win was in Minneapolis. I think they get Maryland here.
I thought you said they were 2-3 against Maryland.
Oh yeah.
Maybe you're
right. Maybe you're right. Yeah.
Why have they played Maryland so many times if Maryland's in the East and they're in the West? That makes no sense. But look, I do expect them to probably get the better of Maryland. Without Tagovailoa running the show for Maryland, I think they're going to get a little worse, and that's a long trip. So I'll give it to Minnesota.
So that puts me at what 5-3. You're at. So I'm already on the number.
I'm at 4.
By Halloween, at Illinois and at Rutgers. Fleck's he's never lost to Rutgers. They're going to go 1-1 in this stretch.
They'll go 1-1 in that stretch.
Yeah. So that puts me at 6-4. They get a bye week on November 16th.
Before we say that, though, I mean, let's evaluate those games on an individual basis. They're probably a little bit better than Illinois, right?
Yes.
But that game's on the road. That's a coin flip, right?
Definitely. I fear the Illinois game a little bit more than the Rutgers game.
Just because is the Greek rifle supposed to start at?
Yeah. Because Wimsat transferred to Kentucky when they got him.
Idiots. They'll probably go 1-1.
That's still a field goal game. I mean, Rutgers.
They could lose
really,
both.
Really good.
They could win
but
both.
They also could win both. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I say 1-1 is fair.
1-1 is the smart play there.
November 16th, they get a bye. Then they're home to Penn State. They're 1-0 at home against Penn State under Fleck. Patty C. Can they make it 2-0?
I mean, if the quarterback again is Brosmer, if he's dynamic, Penn State has shown themselves to be susceptible against not really being able to keep up with dynamic offenses. Still, I think Penn State probably comes down and gets that done, right?
I'm doing this here. So they're home to Penn State and they're at Wisconsin.
Don't tell me you're giving them 1-on-1 on principle.
Well, but I gave USC that one. I gave Penn State that one. I gave Wisconsin that one. No, one of those will be won by Minnesota. I think it's a 7-5 team. I think Minnesota is better than Wisconsin right now. I think they're a better coached football team than Wisconsin.
Probably slightly, yes. Certainly more developed in their routines. I mean, Fleck's been there for a long time, right? How many years has Fleck been there?
7, I think.
This
right?
is year 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Fickle in year 2 probably still doesn't have all the pieces in place. Still on the road at Wisconsin, he's got a 3-4 record all time against Wisconsin. You are making a big assumption that he's gonna, improve here.
I mean, the big assumption is what Penn State's never won in Minneapolis under Fleck. USC plays like pussy ball. All I'm saying is they're going to get one of those 3.
Who's the receiver for USC? Jackson?
Zachary Branch?
Yeah, Branch. That's it. He's going to go for 200 plus. Look, I think you're a little optimistic about Minnesota's season here. I think 6-6. Well, no, what's the number they have, Matt?
5.
5, maybe even 5-7 is correct.
No,
let me go through it again, because we're giving them North Carolina. North Carolina beat them last year.
True. That was in North Carolina, and North Carolina had a bunch of returning starters, including a top 5 pick.
Sure, at the quarterback position, no less.
Yeah.
Okay, so the guaranteed wins on this schedule are Rhode Island, Nevada, and that's it. Okay.
Fair. Yeah.
Aside from that, we anticipate a win at home against North Carolina. We think they'll get 1 out of 4 against Iowa, Michigan, USC, and UCLA.
I mean, I think I would set the line at them -7 at UCLA.
Dude, I think 5 might be more accurate, because then even if we give them Maryland and split between Illinois and Rutgers, that's at 4. And then Penn State and Wisconsin. I think they're right. I think Vegas is right. I think 5 is actually the number that I'm falling on.
If you have a lean to over or under, what would you do?
I think he's a good enough coach that he's going to get at least. Wait, but we're giving them Maryland. His history suggests over. So if I have to lean, I'm going to go over.
Well, I can tell you, I don't have to lean. I'm going to lock up. You will hear this on the Locks Pod. Minnesota is going to go 7-5. And I'll tell you this. I think there's a chance they could do better. I think I like them playing Iowa in September as opposed to October and November. I think that is a more winnable than it's been of late, I should say. But I still favor Iowa there. But like I said, that's one play is the difference. 1 50-yard field goal, 1 blocked pass. You know what I mean? Like those Iowa.
Oh yeah, they could win that game.
So they could easily be 4-0 going to Michigan. Yes, I don't have them beating Michigan.
That's the flip side of it, is in terms of games that you expect them to be like 2 touchdown dogs in, or even double digit dogs in. I think there might only be two score dogs. There's probably only one on that slate, right? At Michigan, maybe USC.
Yeah. No, see, I think the USC game is winnable. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think you
They
can
get them at home.
You could
get Penn State at home.
If they can get Iowa, the Iowa game to me is a huge game on this schedule, but like to me, like if they can get Iowa be 4-0, USC and UCLA is winnable to me.
Yeah, if you're 4-1 after Michigan, I think there's no sweat off your back if you lose to Michigan. You still have momentum, and then you're hosting USC. The crowd will be lit if you're 4-1 hosting USC. You get that one, all bets are off. I mean, you're hitting the over A.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you're right there. You're 5-1, and UCLA will have a half empty crowd because no one's going to give a shit. If anything, Minnesota might even have that crowd. And then you're sitting there at 5-1, and then to me, Maryland, Illinois, Rutgers, all winnable games.
Yeah.
Like to me, the ceiling on this thing, like the worst or the best case scenario is like 10-2. Now, I don't think that'll happen. I think 7-5 is realistic. I think the floor is 5-7, so I think you're home. But I just think PJ Fleck has proven it too many times. And I also think bringing back this many starters, I've previewed about all these Big Ten teams. Most of them have like 6 starters back. I think that shit matters. Bringing 4 out of 5 back on the offensive line, bringing your whole D line back. Yeah. I think that matters. I think this is a 7-5 team. Wouldn't be surprised if it's 8-4. Wouldn't be surprised 9-3. I would be surprised at 5-7, but it's still possible with the schedule. Like you let Brosmer struggle or get injured or something. That's how that thing,
spirals.
Yeah. But to me, they don't have Ohio State on the schedule. Now they still get what? If we had to go with
they don't have Oregon, teams, they don't have Washington.
Well, I would actually want Washington this year. So if you had to go top 5, you go what? Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Penn State, Iowa, right?
USC maybe over Iowa or right. I don't know. That's tough.
Iowa
it depends on which
last year.
Depends on which USC team shows up. If it's USC from 2 years ago, even then, I think it's a pretty good game between them and Iowa. So I think, yeah, you're probably right. Iowa probably is a little ahead of USC.
Well, my point is they still get 3 of those. So I mean,
whether it's not an easy schedule.
Iowa, yeah,
I don't see them in contention for the Big Ten, but
I don't either.
Certainly 7-8 wins is very possible.
Yeah, I like the over though, dude. I think, and I love it when Fleck's a dog. I feel like back to his Western Michigan days. Or the years he's at Minnesota. I feel like when he's projected to be shitty is when he's good. When he's returning this much production, I'm in. Let's go.
Well, we talked about close losses last year. We said a 3-point overtime loss at Northwestern.
1 point loss to Illinois. Yeah.
Against Illinois. A 2 touchdown loss, which I guess you could say is close against Wisconsin. But did they have any close wins that make them a little? I mean, a 3-point win hosting.
They should have lost to Nebraska in the opener. They should have. Like they had no business winning that game. And
the Iowa game was, like
sauce.
We said, yeah, sauce. Other than that, most of their wins are pretty reliable. The bowl game against Bowling Green only won by 6. A little bit of a red flag, but I think overall they
covered
wins
because I bet them.
Their wins are pretty solid. Yeah, I think just history alone makes you say over here.
Yeah, I like it, man. You're gonna hear this one of the Locks episode. Let's go. Row that boat over to YouTube, youtube.com/The College Experience, and hit that like and subscribe button. Also, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts at, you can listen to this. Please, if you can, hop on over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review. That always helps us. And give Patty C a follow on Twitter at PattyC831. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. The College Football Experience is on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. Follow away, all that good stuff. Check out the Stadium Heads podcast where we talk about the history of college football stadiums and why we love a lot of the new ones, and Minnesota being one of them, compared to that filthy dome they were playing in before that bullshit. So check out the Stadium Heads podcast, myself and Michael Barker, aka College Football Campus Tour, breaking down all the great things that are great about college football. Check out the FCS college football experience, the college basketball experience. Ben Johnson getting that program better and better. When the season goes live, we're going live every single night of the season. Every single night. 365 when the season starts. But yeah, we still got coaching previews, coaching interviews, conference previews, team previews, all in the college basketball experience. Also check out the college baseball experience. Obviously the road to Omaha just finished. Shout out to what was it? Texas A&M losing in the championship game in a little SEC duel against the Tennessee Volunteers. Check out that though. Check out the Sports Gambling Podcast as well, live on VSiN every Friday. Also, they're live every night. YouTube. I'm on that show all the time, so check that out. And yeah, folks, until next time, I can't wait for the season. This is the college football experience, Minnesota Golden Gopher style. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot.